Hello everyone. In my most recent live stream of consciousness, I talked about the lifestyle and behaviour of Jesus Christ. And one of the things that I talked about was the fact that Jesus would take the time to go away and be alone with God, despite the number of people that were vying for his attention. He obviously understood the importance of being in a position that he could commune with God without interference. And the Gospels often describe the place that he went to as simply a desolate place. In one case he goes to a mountain. Now if it's important for Jesus to seek a place where he can be alone with God, then of course it's important for us. So what I thought I'd do is start a series in which I seek out these desolate places in my local area where I can go and be alone with God. And for the first video in the series, I thought it would be appropriate if I went up to my favourite place of solitude. Now this is a place called Holborn. It's about 3 miles north of the town that I live in, and you'll recognise the place because this is where I took my German friend Matthias when he came to visit me earlier in the year. Now it's 2:15 in the morning at the moment. This being the beginning of August, the sun rises pretty early. It might rise at 3 or 4 in the morning. So what I'm going to do is set out now, and hopefully by the time that I'm arriving at Holborn Head, the sun will just be rising. Okay, we've got Bible, got flask with water in it, got mixed peanuts for something to eat along the way, so I think we're ready to go. Walked about a mile now, just about to head outside of town, and that is the port I've got to get to. It's called Scrabster, and although you probably can't see it because, oh no, you can see it a bit, that's Holborn Head out there, shrouded in darkness. So first port of call is that port. Seal in the water there. Look. It knows me. Here we are. Yeah, it's swimming away again. You get a lot of seals around here. Swimming out to sea, I think. Coming up on the old lighthouse here. Stopped being used around 2003. And of course when it was still used, its light would shine across the bay. Now one of the houses I grew up in, the room I slept in, the light of the lighthouse would shine directly into it, which could be quite annoying. So if you're someone whose sleep is affected by bright light, it wouldn't have been too convenient. But now it's not used anymore, and it's a rather spooky building, especially when it's like a silhouette against the sunset, or in this case the sunrise. Here I am above the port now and behind the lighthouse. Covered nearly 3 miles. It's about 20 to 4 in the morning. And there's our first destination right there. You can tell from that mound of stones, which I'll talk about when I get there. So, still a bit of a hike to go. The irony for me regarding this place is that if there's one thing I don't like, it's heights. And this is a place where there's not only many chasms, but it's a place where the ground can actually open up. And if you fall down one of these things, you're done for. So I've got to proceed with extreme caution here. And there's a bridge that I always compared to that bridge in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's a little bridge you have to walk across. This one isn't invisible, but it is quite narrow. And unfortunately the ground is wet due to the recent rains, so I'm not looking forward to this. But you know, the fact that I have a real problem with heights is one of the main reasons I feel obliged to keep coming out here, because fear of course is just in the mind. And if you are, there's one of the chasms. See, I didn't even see it till right now. That's how dangerous this place can be. But fear is just in the mind, and if I was to stay away from this place and dwell on that fear, I'd probably cripple myself with it, and never come back here. So the thing you've got to do is face it all the time, repeatedly. And of course I, of all people, should be able to overcome fear. I'm very much one for those man up mantras, but of course I try to take a more spiritual approach, and the issue is that fear, here we are, fear is all in the mind. So, see, I do not like this. You can hear the sea at the bottom. And here we are. Now this is what's known as a cairn. Now a cairn broadly is just a pile of stones, and typically, or at least this is the Scottish meaning for them, typically they signify something. So a cairn might be erected in memory of someone or an event or something along those lines, but this one in particular, this grew out of a tradition in this area where if anyone made it out here, then, you know, to signify their accomplishment, they'd put a stone on here, and so it's built up in that manner across the years. And here we are, my favourite place of solitude. That over there is Peterhead, and over there that's Orkney, and beyond that are the Shetland Islands. Now Orkney and the Shetland Islands are famous for their Norse ruins. Maybe one day I'll do one of my videos over there. There's a little adventure. But this town dates back about 1500 years. The name Thurso means Thor's River. It was originally a Norse settlement, and that's what you get this far north in the Highlands, is that culturally it's less Celtic and more Norse. And this, the site that I'm standing on now, is the site of an ancient Iron Age fort. You can still see some of the remains of it. And a headland like this is obviously a logical place for people to build a fort because they could see people coming by sea. Now, there's a 2nd century Roman document just called Geography, written by Ptolemy. Not sure if that's how you pronounce it or not, but some reckon that he actually referenced this very place in that document. We're not really sure, of course. The Romans never made it this far north because the Picts stopped them, but they would certainly have navigated the area by sea, so who knows. But you know, coming out of places like this, you can't help but feel connected to that history. You know, the people who once inhabited this area and who built this fort here, you know, what did they think about life? What did they think about the world? I guess this video is one that could appeal to the pagans out there. Because they would have been pagan, they would have had a Celtic form of spirituality. Of what kind, we're not sure, because very little exists of them now. It's all gone with the winds of time. So, as you can see, I made it out here well before sunrise, and I think it's really too dark for me to show you much. So I'm going to spend some time in prayer, and when it gets lighter, I'll pick up with you again. I'm just glad that area with the trials there is past. Fear of heights is a very strange thing. You can be a fair distance away from any edge, but just knowledge of the fact that it's around, if you think about it, your body kind of feels like it's giving way as if you were near the edge. It's very strange, but again, that's what makes this kind of an ideal place for me to meditate and pray, because it's in some ways putting myself in harm's way spiritually. It's like putting myself into the way of temptation to see if I can overcome it, or in this case, putting myself in the way of fear to see if I can overcome it. So yeah, that does make this kind of an ideal place for me. And yeah, this does say absinthe on it, but it's not absinthe, it's water. Although it's menthol flavoured water, because absinthe is very powerful, and its taste doesn't quite leave even if you wash it out many times. You know, recently I made a video talking about those cases where we can't reconcile with other people in our lives. And I said that some people, if you can't reconcile with them, even if you're completely willing, it's best to just avoid them. There's something I wish I'd said in that video, because an obvious objection to it, although no one made this objection, but an obvious objection to it would be, Well, would someone who's seeking enlightenment or seeking to be led by the Spirit, would they really have to hide away from people? Did Jesus ever have to hide away from his childhood friends because he couldn't fix that relationship? Did Buddha? Did Krishna? And the answer, of course, is no. And what I should have said in that video is that my advice is very much for people on the spiritual path, people who are seeking enlightenment or seeking to be led by the Spirit. Because while you're on that spiritual path, when you get to that place, then fine, you'll be able to deal with everything. But until then, I think you've got to avoid pitfalls, avoid relationships and other things that are going to be detrimental to that spiritual walk. That's what I should have said. And solitude is a very important part of the spiritual seeker's life. Not just while he's searching for that nirvana, that oneness with God, whatever you'd like to call it. But even then, as I said, Jesus needed to be alone. And it's not just reserved to the Western Christian tradition, or the Christian tradition as a whole. Any time around the world you hear of a guru or a holy man, even if he's not on the level of someone like Buddha or something like that, when you try to seek these people out, it's become a stereotype now because it's true. You don't seek them out in flat 2B of your local council estate. You'll find them in a cave, in the jungle, on a mountain somewhere. They require solitude. The question is why? And I think that even the great masters require solitude so that they can be alone with God or consciousness or whatever they call it in their tradition. But that's why they need solitude. That's why I need it. More chasms there. Just going to make it up to the top of that peak. Interesting, we've got 3 thistles growing up here, and only 3. I would have liked to have gotten a time lapse of the sun rising, but my camera obviously has limited battery, and this is only the first part of our quest today. I've decided to try and make it to a place called Crosskirk Bay. That's 5 miles to the west. Now, I've never been to Crosskirk in my entire life, never mind on the route that I'm planning to take, which is across the coast here. An area that's obviously going to be very rough in terms of its terrain, and an area that is completely unexplored to me. Now, a few days ago I had a look at Google Maps, but in areas as remote as this, even the satellite view of Google Maps is of very little help, and I noticed certain features that were something of a concern to me. There seem to be areas that are either like the chasms I've already shown you here, or bodies of water. I'm not quite sure what they are. I'm not even sure if it's possible to get to Crosskirk on the coast the way I'm planning to go, but that's going to be the adventure. Now, Crosskirk itself, it's not even a village, it's not even a hamlet, it's just a place. Now, Kirk is the Scottish name for church, so a lot of places around here are called something Kirk. and Crosskirk is just another one of them. However, Kirk obviously implies that there's a church building there, but given that, as I've said, this town, this area was settled for like 1500 years by the Norse, and then different people came in, of course, it's possible that there was once a kirk there, but it no longer exists. That's a possibility because I couldn't see any information about there being a church there. But I'm going to try and make it to Crosskirk Bay. I have no idea what I'm going to discover along the way, but it's going to be an adventure finding out. Now, as I said, it's about 5 miles away. I've already walked 3 to get out here, so in total on this journey I'll have walked 16 miles, so that's a fair hike for the day, but I've got more ambitious plans in the future. But let's set off for Crosskirk along the coast and see what we encounter. Okay, I've only walked a short distance to the north and this looks rather concerning. I mean, the maps made it obvious that I'd have to be very close to the cliff edge as I was making this journey, but I think I underestimated how close. I've got some sort of ramshackle little bridge over here that I don't like the look of much, but well, this is the quest. Nice little burn there leading down out of the hills. Yes, that's what I'm afraid of when the ground is slippy. Let's not do that when I'm next to an edge. Edge of a cliff over this. Oh, it's ground. Oh, and look, I can see to where the landscape gets less cliff-like. I think that's the bay over there. Okay, I've got an idea on how far we've come now, because you see that area with all the wind farms? It's a business park. I used to work there. And the bay that I'm trying to get to is right behind it. Not quite as far to the west as it, but pretty much diagonally to the east of it. So we've still got a fair bit to go yet, but whew, we're getting there. Stop for a much needed rest. You can see that the cliffs are getting lower now. Still got a fair bit to go. My back and my feet were just crying out for a rest. That stone there looks interesting, doesn't it? Looks like it might once have been something. Don't know. Like I said, this is quite a hike. I mean, in terms of distance, I'm used to walking this kind of distance. It's just the terrain that's making it more difficult, but I expected that. The only problem is I don't think I took nearly enough water with me. My canteen's nearly empty, and of course I've got to go back. The last stage of our journey, we finally come to a point where we can't cross on high ground, so I'm going to have to find my way down onto the shore. Thank goodness this is the last leg of the journey, because these rocks are finishing off my legs. I mean, I knew there'd probably be climbing involved. Didn't expect this slippery rocks bit. And again, I'm used to this from my youth, but it's all taking its toll. I thought I'd identify Crosskirk Bay by the fact that there seems to be some kind of, I don't know, looks like a graveyard, but I can't tell what it is. But there's something just past it on the shore, on the cliff, so look at all those mainlands we've passed, all those cliffs. Gee whiz, we've come from all the way over there. This, despite my camping days, is certainly an ambitious first video for this series. Definitely sticking to stable ground next time. Someone has discarded a wicker chair here. Needs must. That's exactly what I need right now. A proper seat. Just drag this along with me. See, this is the reality of role playing. I can't fit any number of things, no matter how large, into my pockets. Just got to drag things of this size with me, as if my body hasn't been through enough strain in the last, how many hours? 4 or 5, I don't even know. I think it's about 8 in the morning at the current time. But here we are. I don't think there's any point us looking for Crosskirk, because as I said, I don't think it's so much as a hamlet. It was once maybe something, but now it's not. Nonetheless, the place still exists in some form. It's just not a form that I think even involves so much as a single house. Yeah, my leg gave way there, that's good. Got to go climbing back through all that stuff now. (1886) that headstone is. Yeah, it's like the graveyard, St. Peter's. Now St. Peter's dates back to 1000 AD. It's the graveyard, well, one of the historic graveyards back in town. And this one seems to be of a similar period. Found something to put the camera on. Maybe this wicker chair is a sign. Maybe this is where I should live. Don't know what you'd even eat here. Well, you'd fish, I suppose. Not much in the way of fresh water though. Especially considering there isn't even a town here. I guess it's always got to be remembered that we can put ourselves through a lot of physical strain and do things like this that we'd never normally do, just do it off the cuff, and it can ravage our bodies and it'll hurt so much when we'll be able to move the next day. But, you know, in ancient times, the times of Jesus, I think this kind of physical labour was just a given for the majority of people, majority of males in the time anyway. So, really can't complain. And the whole point of this was to just for something different really. To show you, first of all, my favourite place of solitude and some of the scenery along here which I'd never seen myself. And I guess I'll be able to, in some ways, appreciate it more on the way back because I don't have the video in mind. I'm just going to be there observing it myself. So yes, solitude, very important. And it's kind of funny that my exhaustion, my tiredness, it's making me feel even more serene at the moment, despite, even the scenery makes it serene enough, the calmness, but that exhaustion, that tiredness makes it feel extra dreamy. It's very nice. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time. God bless you all.